is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
So, you want to race in NASCAR. The road starts here. Introducing the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing. This is the gateway for all aspiring 13 to 16-year-olds. Starting June 20th, ignite your dreams of one day racing in the top tiers of NASCAR. Go to www.iracing.com/ignite for full details.
Live tonight from the virtual new Smyrna Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the eNASCAR Ignite Series on RaceSpot TV, NASCAR.com, and the iRacing Esports Network, where tonight we begin a 5-race playoff in search of our first ever Ignite Series champion. We're happy to have you with us this evening. Up in the booth, myself, Evan Pizzoco, joined by Justin Prince, and Randy Chennett is downstairs bringing us to you this evening. And well, yes, it is round 1 on the hunt for this championship. Justin, a lot has gone in with these 50 drivers competing tonight. They've had to qualify in for the previous 8 weeks to get to tonight's point.
Yep, 480 drivers over the past 8 races have been trying to work themselves for this point to make sure they're in the top 50 and have a chance to come away with the first ever Ignite Series championship.
And with 50 drivers making it to this point, we are going to go racing for the next 4 weeks before we crown our top 30, and then we will decide things for real in September from Martinsville. Still a lot in between now and then, but we take a look at the schedule, Justin, tonight from the new Smyrna Speedway. Big thing to take away, we're not putting 50 Legends cars on the racetrack at one point. So we're going to be splitting things up in heat races. We'll talk more about the format as the night goes on. Also going to be visiting places like the Irwindale Speedway. A little bit of road sprinkled in there as we head to the short track Brie at Texas a little bit later on, and then Stafford Speedway as well. So a good selection in one of the smaller cars on the iRacing service.
It's a pretty good diverse schedule for the playoffs to try and set themselves up for these next 4 races, which will really challenge these drivers. I think the biggest challenges will be tonight, as well as that Texas road course race. Should be some entertaining action over these next 4 weeks with those 4 tracks on the circuit.
And Martinsville is a place that's normally referred to as a short track. It's the biggest one we'll see. That will be where the final shootout takes place later on, as you saw on that playoff schedule. But obviously the objective of this series is that the drivers competing in this one are all in between the age range of 13 through 16. A lot of drivers in the race tonight have some limited real-world experience, but a lot of them, that only experience comes here on the iRacing service, which is what makes this series so much fun and what makes it so very interesting as well.
It definitely does, because there's a lot of competitive drivers that have made this top 50 that have that mixture. You have drivers that have raced Legends in the real world. You have mixes of drivers who have raced just on the sim and having their opportunities here tonight to showcase what they can do in the iRacing, the eNASCAR Ignite Series. There's a lot of opportunities for these drivers, and this is one of those big opportunities tonight to show that they can do something here in the series.
Certainly drivers who tonight going to be one of the more big races that they've ever had in their racing or their sim racing career. But there are some other drivers, some familiar names that you might recognize in this if you follow a lot of the iRacing action here on the iRacing Esports Network. Drivers from the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series and others. These drivers are very good at what they do on the iRacing service. So while yes, they are at the younger end of that spectrum, Justin, we are certainly expecting to see a lot of great action.
That's for sure. There's, again, as I mentioned, a lot of those great drivers, and with everyone tonight, it's going to be where you have to be on your A game from qualifying through all the way through the format for tonight. You make a mistake, it could be the difference between watching tonight's race from home or being in victory lane tonight here.
Drivers going to be headed trackside now to get their qualifying time in, and we are happy to be joined by Mr. Blake Davidson, Vice President of Consumer Innovation with NASCAR. Blake, first and foremost, thanks for hanging out with us. We very much appreciate your time. This is far from the first time, though, that iRacing and NASCAR have partnered up. We've seen certainly a lot of stuff like this in recent months and recent years, but just tell us how this series came to be and how you see sim racing fitting into the future of the sport.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here, excited for the eNASCAR Ignite Series playoffs to kick off. And, you know, the kind of getting here is a long, not a long story, but, you know, we've been at it for a number of years with iRacing, and they've been great partners of NASCAR. We're at our 9th season with the Peak Series, so next year we celebrate our 10th season together, and we're really excited about that and what's to come in that series. But you know, certainly with the eNASCAR Ignite Series, it was something new and fresh, and you know, a way we felt like that, you know, we really, you know, work with iRacing to develop new young talent, bring them into the sport, attract those to racing that might, you know, not have known how to get into racing, and really formalize a path, hopefully down the line, where these drivers will end up, you know, racing in some of our other national series on the track, and I'm certain we're going to find some stars, whether it's, you know, this season or future seasons that will come out of the.
We're certainly already starting to hear some of those stories. Somebody like a Ty Majeski, who is very familiar with the service itself. He has the top I rating out of anybody on iRacing.com. Also somebody like a William Byron, who had competed on the iRacing service prior to making that transition over to the real world side of things. Where do you see something in 2018 now, where obviously we see NASCAR getting involved and even the teams at some of the top levels of the sport starting to take a serious look? Where do you see this esports category fitting into the ladder of racing?
Well, I think it's going to be a critical part of driver development for us. You know, William Byron is a great story, and everybody knows that follows racing, but they don't know that. And Myers said this recently. William Byron was 13 years old and on iRacing and spending a lot of time on it, but we didn't know who he was. iRacing didn't know who he was. He was just on there racing because he, you know, had an interest in the sport, interested being a race car driver, and you know, now he's William Byron racing in the iconic 24 car. We want to discover the William Byrons when they're 13 years old, not you know, not later, and help them cultivate their career. And I think through the eNASCAR Ignite Series, we're going to be able to do just that.
We look forward to seeing where this series goes, but we are set to get racing for the first time ever in the playoffs. So, Blake, we will let you step aside. We appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. And again, like I said, we look forward to seeing what comes of this Ignite series into the future.
Thanks, guys.
We have our heat races coming up, as we mentioned, and we get set to go racing for round 9 on the year. We do have 10 laps at each of these heat races, and drivers are going to be geared up already. Suggested let's chuck trackside and take a look at this one. Garrett Lowe was your top qualifier through the 8 races on the regular season. He will start on a pole for this one. He will be joined by the 27 of Nicholas Lobish on the outside, starting in second. Ryan H. Papassid will start third. You've also got Braden in 4th position, and Kenny Brady rounds out our top 5.
Joseph John Braun will start alongside Kenny Brady in that row. Fall behind them is Travis Oliver and Alex Kopoltwit. In the final row, though, it's Jake Waltman and Tyler Marble who have to work a long way up if they want to make sure they get into the top 3. As you've seen, the top 3 from each of these heats transfer to the A main. The pressure is on if you're in the back of the field.
And out of the 50 drivers who are here this evening, not a lot of them, I should say, are going to be able to see that 30-lap main event later on this evening. Only 17 total cars will qualify through to that point. It'll be the top 3 drivers, as you mentioned, from all of the 5 heat races that we will see. And then we will have a last chance qualifier A and B later on. Only the winner of those 17 car races going to have an opportunity to see themselves into this main event. There are certainly big names on the front row, and as we discussed prior to going on the air, I think qualifying going to be ever so critical, not only because so few cars going to make it to the main event, but as well, there are no caution flags in this 10-lap sprint to the end, so if anything goes wrong, it could certainly open up the door for some of the cars mid-pack to the back. However, starting up front makes your world a lot easier than it would be trying to come from the back to the front.
It definitely will, to have that track position, because you never know what's going to happen. With this kind of a racetrack, for example, anything can happen, especially with turn 2. You want to be in the position where you're in front of any possible trouble and you don't have to work your way from the back or have to try and recover. Anything can happen if you're up at that front. It makes it a whole lot easier.
And we're going to find out how the first heat race is going to go this evening as the pace car gets set to dive down to the safety of the pit lane. We're going to go eNASCAR Ignite Series racing for the first time as we get set to go playoff racing for the virtual new Smyrna Speedway. The green flag for Ryan Lowe. He was your top points getter in a regular season, and he'll lead the first lap, but already problems mid-pack. The 31 of Papazian with a big mistake. He'll drop to the back as the field goes down and at a quarter 2.
Yeah, unfortunate for him getting wheel spin at the start, but that's really helped that top 5 now really get to single file, get themselves into some open space. Now the question is, can Ulm hold on to where he's at on the bubble spot in the top 3?
He's certainly got competition very close to the back end as he sits third at the moment. Kenny Brady, the next challenger, only 1 car length off as this fight heads down to quarters 3 and 4. This race not going to last all that long at all, so if you're not Brady P4 or Travis Oliver maybe a little bit further behind in P5, you need something, and you need something now, but certainly that bad start for the 31 will guarantee him a trip to the LCQ. He started third, fell to P9. No changes in front of him. Garrett Lowe started first, Lobish started second, and they run 1-2 at the moment, but the 25 is under fire. Here comes Kenny Brady, not yet making a move. He's all over the back bumper now to turn 1.
He's getting much better exits off the corners and taking his entries better. Brady's got the speed. He just needs to time it up to where he doesn't make contact, finds a way to get side by side. It's just about making sure he gets the timing together as they go down the front stretch.
It's exactly what he's looking for, is he's certainly going to want to set this one up. And if I'm Brady Ulm as well into 25, maybe look for a little bit more of a defensive line to maybe go a little bit more so to the inside of these 18 to 20 degrees of banking. You can see the drivers in front of him doing that same thing, protecting that yellow line. You do not want to open up the door to entice that car behind you into thinking that he's got a better shot than he does. They do certainly run higher down at this end of the racetrack in 1 and 2, so there is a spot to make a move low if the 14 so desires.
There is right now, especially with that front stretch. He's trying to get underneath because Ulm is leaving that bottom side open a bit on the exit of 3 and 4. It's just the way that Ulm's been defending has been making it to where Brady has to check up and make sure he doesn't make contact. He's got to make sure he finds the proper time to just get it underneath, and he almost got it here. Looks like he's got...
There's going to be contact. The 25 is going to get spun. It's Brandon Ulm who is in that final transfer position. He gets turned sideways. You'll get a second look on a Race Spot TV replay. I thought that move low would have been coming in 1 and 2, but he forced his way through in 3 and 4. And Kenny Brady, with an assist to the push bar, now moves to third as we come to 2 laps to go.
I don't think Brady was expecting that much momentum, was hoping to hold on to the yellow line, but just pushed up that slight touch, and that moves up and towards that bubble spot.
Rejoin the action, and Kenny Brady now at that spot. More contact now. Braun and Oliver, they're going to wreck another car involved. So 4th and 5th crash on the back straightaway. That was not for a transfer spot. You'll get a second look at that one, but Garrett Lowe in the 1 car. nice and silky smooth. He looks like he's going to successfully go from pole to checkers. Final time of the quarter. Garrett Lowe's going to win heat race number 1. Nicholas Lobish keeps him honest right there in second. And the controversy may lie with Kenny Brady, who comes home in third. Those are your drivers who will transfer to tonight's main event.
Yeah, good start to this event here tonight for especially the battles across the field we have seen in this first heat. Now the question is, what will we expect to see in heat number 2 now that some of the drivers have seen some of the action that's happened just in front of them?
Drivers that'll be headed to that LCQ later on this evening includes Jake Waltman, who ends up finishing 4th, and Brandon Oom, who does eventually be able to recover for a P5. Could have been a lot worse for him. That'll at least give him a good starting spot at the LCQ. Tyler Marble, you've also got Travis Oliver, Joseph Braun, Alex Karpowicz, and Ryan Papazian are the drivers who do not advance, so they are headed to the LCQ later on. Field already rolling off. Let's introduce you to the starting grid for heat race number 2. Andy Trippiano will start pole in this one, and it'll be Brian LaPrade outside of the front row starting in second. Dave Walsh gets third on the grid. He's accompanied by Dylan Alt on the outside of row 2 at fourth, and Hunter O. Johnson rounds out your top 5 qualifiers.
And he'll start alongside Riley Thompson, who's got a quick machine, along with Devin Serra in the next row, row number 4. Daniel Silvestri will start in the 8th spot with Benjamin Morton and Camden Wiest rounding out the top 10 and the 10 drivers, for this Heat 2 grid. Again, lots of challenges and a lot of good drivers that are in the middle of the field that are going to try and contest for that bubble spot.
And the interesting thing is, doesn't matter where you finish at the points in those first 8 weeks, all of the qualifying times and therefore the starting positions tonight based on that qualifying session that we talked about just a little bit ago. So there might be some of the better drivers towards the back trying to sort their way through the field. Let's see what happens as we get set to go racing in heat race number 2. 3 more golden tickets to the main event up for grabs as the field is in the hands of Trippiano. Green flag in the air, we're off and away. A lot tighter this time though in heat race 2. Everybody on top of each other into turn 1.
Yeah, Alt actually hit the back bumper bar on LaPrade's machine coming onto the restart, so he's not holding back. He's trying to get that 3rd spot in a hurry, trying to fight on the high side, which is very difficult.
He is so far doing a decent job on that outside of the racetrack, as that time Biles had the position to Dave Walsh on the inside of the racetrack. The 19's going to slow up, and that spot's going to be determined contact in the back. It is Daniel Silvestri, who may have had a little bit of help from the 16. He goes up and into the outside wall. That'll cost him some spots. And then back closer to the front, that 19 of Dave Walsh continues, Justin, to struggle on that lower line. He allowed Alt to get around him on the outside after he really had that better starting position, qualifying 3rd, but the 22 was able to get around him. Now the 15 of Riley Thompson gets around him for 4th before he finally tucks up in line in P5.
It looks like he's trying to get himself back into rhythm with all these drivers going to his outside. Now that's back single file, he can maybe focus up and go back to his race. The thing is, he isn't taking the exit of the corner, especially turn 2, as strongly as some of the competitors, which is setting them on up. As now he's been pushed to the high side as Hunter O. Johnson is going to make the pass.
He can't catch a break on either side of the racetrack, side by side in front of him, and it is a battle for the final transfer spot. Here comes Riley Thompson, starting this P6. He's already gotten 1 and 2. He needs one more spot if he wants to crack into the top 3. Not able to do it there, though. Got the inside positioning. Alt has looked very good on that outermost lane thus far, and he holds him off for the time being. Just like in Heat Race 1, though, no changes for 1 and 2. It's still Trippiano and LaPrade, 1, 2, and they have a good amount of space in between them and Alt right now, who 3rd is not all that far in front of a pretty big Hornet's Nest for 5th on back.
Yeah, the Hornet's Nest is getting very feisty, in fact, because Walsh has gone into the rhythm. Hunter O. Johnson is now forced to side-by-side moments where he's now losing track position to Devin Serra, in fact. So right now, everyone's just trying to get themselves to where they're single file down the straightaways to get back into rhythm. They don't want to risk going side-by-side, where either inside or outside, people are making those passes stick on either line.
You can certainly see the advantages of splitting that 50-car field up into these multiple heat races. And on top of that, New Smyrna is a pretty wide racetrack as well. So in a lot of these battles, we can see drivers utilizing all of that lateral space. The 16 Sarah with the marble. How about we go 3 wide for 6th, 7th, and 8th on track? You'd think that's a qualifying spot. It's not. Everybody fighting, though, for everything they can get as the 8 machine of Trappiano looks for the white flag.
Yeah, they're getting very feisty here, knowing they might have to go to the last chance qualifier, wanting to get the best track position for that as the white flag's out.
White flag in the air. LaPrat's not going to be a challenge for the race lead. 1-2 looks safe. And if Riley Thompson's got something up his sleeve, he really needs to make a Hail Mary move into turn number 3. That gap, though, going to be just too much to overcome. And another driver goes pole to checkers. This time, Andy Trappiano wins heat race 2.
Yeah, good run for Trappiano to be able to have the good start and pull on away. But Dylan had a lot of challenges to make sure he got that 3rd spot. At one point, I think he scraped the wall, in fact, down the front stretch around the halfway point. Was just able to hang on, though, and get himself into that top 3 to advance to the A main.
Trappiano, LaPrat, and Alter going on. It'll be Riley Thompson, Dave Walsh, Devin Sarah, Daniel Silvestri, Hunter O. Johnson, Camden West, and Benjamin Morton, who were unable to qualify. We will see them later on in the LCQs. Heat 3 already qualified up and gridded up down trackside. Here's how they will roll for their set at 10 laps in hopes of qualifying to tonight's main event. It'll be Mikey Neal on a pole position for this one. His 25.36 in qualifying was good enough to put him here, and Zach Novak will join him on the outside of the front row in 2nd. Austin Edwards start 3rd position tonight. It'll be Dee Parker rolling from 4th, and Nicholas Doucette starts in 5th.
He'll start alongside Howie Briss. In row number 4, it's Vincent Arthur and Patrick Moose. And in the final row, Ethan Egan and Andreas Illick, who will both be who is going to try and move themselves forward. Again, we've seen a lot of action here, Evan. I expect to see the same here for heat race number 3.
And going back at a point that we had mentioned right off at the top there, that some of these drivers, this is one of the bigger starts they've made in their sim racing or their racing career. Well, somebody who is not at all a stranger to the spotlight is 16-year-old Zach Novak, who's on the outside of the front row, one of the regulars in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series that you can find right here on Tuesday nights on the iRacing Esports Network. That playoff gets set to kick off next Tuesday in the search for the 9th ever NASCAR Esports World Champion. Certainly look for the 2 machine to be a competitor throughout the rest of that season as well. We're going to go on board with Austin Edwards. He's going to have to play some defense for the inside of row 2 because he is 3rd, and therefore that final transfer position. He's all over the back of Mikey Neal. It is the number 12 machine who's going to be in control for the start. Pace car down and in. Green flag in the air. Heat race 3.
And Edwards was able to time it up, waiting for Neal to go, and now he's forced side by side with Novak, but he's already squealing as he got his tires underneath the yellow line, and that loses him a heck of a lot of track position.
It was a big mistake. You certainly can't have something like that, especially early on in this race. That'll essentially hand Dee Parker the 3rd position, and Nicholas Doucette, another iRacing veteran, he'll go to the outside of the racetrack, and he will get a 4th position as well. So Edwards finally tucks in line to P5, but that's a long ways away from the transfer spot that he once occupied as we try to work in the green flag running conditions. Out of a battle for the race lead here shortly, though. Zach Novak doing a very good job of applying the pressure on the 12 car up front, and even if Parker in 3rd, not all that far back either, he's got a front row seat of all of the action.
And Novak is showing again that speed and talent that he has, trying to set him on up, trying to set Neal up, trying to maybe dime it off the corner, but that time checked up a lot through turn 3 and 4 because he got to the back bumper bar. But he's got himself a decent spot. The question is, can he time it up right, especially now with the battle heating up behind him now for the bubble spot on top of that?
The pressure on the 41 is going to be the best defense I think he can mount is going to be a good offense. He needs to get up there and fight with Zach Novak. If he's content sitting in third, that formation to do set is certainly going to jump all over him. So the 41's in a tough spot right now. Novak looks to the inside as he tries to make it a battle for the race lead, but he almost made that mistake we saw at Edwards. Those left side tires were oh so close to the yellow line. He keeps it up above him, and he continues to apply the pressure. A couple of pieces of contact that last time by, as we're now halfway through Heat Race 3, and the top 5 cars throw him under a blanket. Only half a second separate him.
Yeah, things are getting very tight here and very racing. Look at Doucette diving underneath Parker as he almost slides underneath but has to back off to avoid contact. But that was a good opportunity there. Now he has to try and get the same chance once again with the battle still forming up, and Parker not going to be having any place to go with Novak still trying to get that lead.
Still trying to get that top position. He certainly sees the situation that is developing in the rearview mirror. How patient are the 4 and the 39 going to be? It is awfully intensive, I would say, as the 2 goes to the inside. There's the move. Novak to the inside, side by side for the race lead, and there's going to be contact. The 2 car spins. He'll collect the 4 of Doucette as he tumbles down the back straightaway. 2 of the top 5 are involved, and as the replay will show you, it'll be Mikey Neal, Austin Edwards, and now D. Parker 1, 2, and 3.
As I said before, you never know what's going to happen. In that time, Novak saw the opportunity and ended up bumping and banging, ends up spinning him around, and now the lead has separated itself out. Now Neal's leading with Edwards now in second, and Parker still trying to hang on with the damaged machine on the transfer spot. Now he's going to have to try and hold off Briss on the final lap.
Yeah, Briss has at quite a disadvantage to begin with, so the 41's got some space to work with. Mikey Neal survived the contact. He's going to come at a 3 and 4 for the final time, and he will look to go pull the checkers. He wins heat race number 3. Edwards recovers from the mistake for second, and D. Parker limps it home with a damaged race car, takes that final transfer position in third.
A heck of a battle, but we're going to have a lot of drivers now with that who are going to have to fight very hard in the last chance qualifiers now. Here with Novak, with Doucette, who are going to all have to battle to try and get themselves to transfer in after that incident. Still a long ways to go, and still a lot can happen for the rest of these heats.
It'll be Howie Briss, Vincent Arthur, Patrick Moose, Ethan Hagan, Zach Novak, Nick Doucette, and Andreas Zeke, who come home in those non-transfer spots. They are going to be racing a little bit later on this evening in those the LCQ A and the LCQ B. As heat race number 4 rolls, we take a look top to bottom of the starting grid. Jacob Hall will start this one on pole position. He will be joined by Jake Matheson on the outside of the front row in second. Third position belongs to J. Mitchell Adams. Fourth is Spencer Tarts, number 34, and then one row back further, the 11, Dylan Hodge will start in 5th.
Evan Black will start in P number 6 after getting a 20.699 in qualifying. Then John Hess and Yusuf Ghali will start in row 4. In the final row is James Seawright and Raja Korith. Still a lot of good talented drivers here that are in good spots. The question is now, after what we've seen there, can they make sure they're able to defend the positions cleanly while making sure they don't end up getting any contact that could end off their day and send them to the last chance qualifier?
Curious how confident as well Jacob Hall's feel in all 3 of the heat races completed thus far. Have had that pole-sitting car go to victory lane and therefore qualify into the main event. We'll see if the 10 can keep that trend aligned. It's his turn to bring us to the green flag as they come into turn number 4. The 5 tries to kind of guesstimate that one. It's going to be a very good jump for Matheson on the outside, but it is Hall, the race leader, down to turn 1.
And a very tight battle, as you can see there. Pushed up Matheson up the racetrack, but already contact with Spencer Tart from that turn number 2. And already aggression up at the front as the top 3 are already bumper to bumper.
They're all fighting with one another, but again, you don't want to be taking each other out. Final car in P3 is J. Mitchell Adams. Look at the move by the 11 machine, though. It's Dylan Hodge to the inside. He'll take P4 away from Spencer Tart, and that's going to be a big pickup for the 11, as now he can set his sights on the cars in front of him. If you let those top 3 get away early, you're digging yourself a hole.
You absolutely are, so you got to make sure you hit your marks right now, and Hodge is knowing that he needs to keep up with the back end of Adams. He's trying to dig in more through the corners, trying to hit that yellow line and go more aggressively on his line. He just needs to find a way to gain on up to Adams right now for that spot.
That's all he needs to do is to get up to J. Mitchell Adams. You don't need anything extra. You just need to get in one of those top 3 transfer positions. And as it sits right now, the 28 machine occupies that spot. Spencer Tart also in number 34 machines did a good job of kind of balancing himself out in P5, as things have certainly settled down significantly. There's a little bit of a fight right now. John Hess and Evan Black do battle. That one for P6 at a racetrack as the 13 car is going to look to the inside and try to get up onto him. Not able to make that stick that time.
Yeah, they just are trying to find that grip and try and get the position they need to have to get those kind of passes. It's very tough right now to position yourself forward. We're right just past halfway now, but it's just about a give or take. Do you take when you get the chance, or do you give a little space, try and be a bit patient with the pass? That's the question.
The question is also up front, is Matheson going to really want to mess with Jacob Hall right now for the race lead? Again, sure, the better finishing position you do get in your heat race is going to mean a difference in where you start for the main event later on. That 5 was awfully close to the back bumper of the 10. Do you really risk it, go side by side, and take that chance of you two getting involved in an incident as opposed to just kind of sitting comfortably in P2? At least recently, the 5 has backed off a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody does dare to try to make a move. Your top 3 now really starting to stretch things out. Hodge's disadvantage from P4, now about a half a second up to Adams in 3rd. So without a mistake from the 28 machine, the 11's got a lot of work to do coming to 2 to go.
Yeah, he's got to make sure he finds any time. Right now, I think he needs Adams to make a mistake out of turn 2 especially. Maybe tap that one, lose him a bit of momentum. That will be what will get him back to the back bumper, but it's going to be very difficult to try and close up the time. It's about a 4-car length difference between the 2 on the track. He's going to need a mistake from Adams as they reach the white flag.
White flag in the air, mistake-free means that you are home free to get to the end of heat race number 4. Matheson is still there on Hall, but once he makes a last-second ditched effort, looks like he will take that transfer spot and do so comfortably. Final time at quarter number 4, and it is Jacob Hall pulled the checkers side by side at the last second, but Jacob Hall will win heat race number 4, and for the first time this evening, 1, 2, 3 finish exactly where they started. It'll be Hall, Jake Matheson, and J. Mitchell Adams qualifying to the main event.
Dylan Hodge ended up just missing that bubble spot by about half a second. Then you have Spencer Tart in the top 5, John Hess, Evan Black, Yusuf Ghali, James Seawright, and Raja Korath round out the 10 drivers. So almost exactly how they qualified, in fact, for heat race number 4. But now, with this final heat and the final chance to punch your ticket to the main, we might see a bit more aggression.
These drivers have certainly seen that it is difficult to come to the field. Let's introduce you to the Heat 3 starting grid. Ryan Matthews will start this one on the pole position, and it'll be Anthony Burrows on the outside of the front row in second as well. Jarrett Liebert starts 3rd tonight. It'll be Aaron Mulrooney Jr. rolling off in 4th, and Braden Karras in P5.
In P number 6, it's Roland Johns, and following them on behind will be Demetrius Whitney and Ryan Joyner. Lucas Cram will end off the 9 drivers in heat race number 5, where again pressure is on to make no mistakes to be able to punch your ticket immediately to the main, because from here on out you got to win out if you want to make that final grid for the 30-lap feature.
Yeah, you think the odds are bad out of a 9 or 10 car grid, only the top 3 advancing. We're going to have about 17 in each of those LCQs. Only one single driver qualifies into the main from those one. Ryan Matthews has got a good view. It's all clean air for the 3 car. You see him take off, and we're off and away for our final heat race of the night. Heat race 5 off and away, and the top cars on the racetrack, a good amount of space. Not one of the more tight race starts that we've seen. It'll once again, though, be that outside of row 2 that is much better, as Aaron Mulrooney Jr. leapfrogs your 3rd place starter Liebert to go into that final transfer spot for now.
And Liebert just had an almost scare out on the exit of 4. Almost hit the left rear back end of Rowan Johns trying to hold on to P4. And now he's not in the proper spot he wants to be. Ryan Joyner just behind them just bounces off the wall, which will keep Liebert in the 5th spot.
Keeps him in the 5th spot for the moment, so he drops back a few positions and will obviously try to look forwards, but he's not the first driver we've seen start tonight in 3rd, drop to P5. We'll see if he can become the first, though, to be able to successfully recover from that. Ryan Matthews, your race leader, has 2-3 car lengths back to the car in the number 2 position. That's where the 9 of Anthony Burrows is, and then it is Mulrooney Jr. Those are 1, 2, and 3 in your transfer positions, but how about Roland Johns right now in 4th? Doing a very good job of closing in. Last lap, he was a tad bit quicker than that number 7 in front of him. He's going to need a little bit more oomph to be able to get up to him, try to execute a pass with this race now almost already halfway through. We complete 4 laps this time by.
Yeah, he's trying to adjust the way his momentum's going, and we have a car flipping on the front stretch.
Big problems in this one, and it is going to be behind your race leaders. They're already going to get themselves cleared off for the racetrack, so no worries. And again, with caution flags turned off, we stay green, but the car you saw flipping on the front straightaway was at 49 of Ryan Joyner. His night obviously comes to a crashing halt, and he'll find himself at the very back of the LCQ later on this evening. It is still Johns, the only real competitor up to that 7 machine. Liebert, Caress, and Whitney, they've all fallen off at the back end just a little bit. The 23 is there. He's knocking on the door. Is he going to be able to execute, though?
Yeah, he's trying anything he can in terms of the line, really pushing on the exits. Last time by on the front stretch, he pushed on up. He's been gaining the time the most when he's been able to get the left side tires, believe it or not, just underneath that in the apex towards the middle exit to be able to get that little boost off the corner exit to try and keep up and gain that extra little bit of time on that number 7 machine.
And we've seen some of the intervals, I should say, now go a little bit back and forth, no longer all in favor of the 23. Mulrooney Jr. had a better lap a couple of times. The 23 machine just kind of got back into it for 1/100ths of a second better. Popsicle 6 to the air, though, 2 laps to go. You got to pull something out of the back pocket. P4 Johns not close enough. He's about 3-4 car lengths still off of him.
And he tried to pull something out of the hat there, but tapped the wall, which is going to really hurt his momentum for these final couple laps. He's trying, but with the white flag coming out, I don't know if there's enough time here to catch up to Mulrooney.
Might have to be a mistake out of the 70 camp of Mulrooney. Maybe he feels the pressure and slides up in 3 and 4. Final time, though, Ryan Matthews, smooth sailing for him. Anthony Burrows, a small challenge for the 7 behind, but it is going to be Matthews who wins heat race number 5. Burrows in 2nd, and Aaron Mulrooney Jr. does hang on and is able to defend off of Roland Johns. And those will be your final 3 drivers headed to tonight's main event through the heat races.
Yeah, John's not advancing. Now he'll have to go to the last chance qualifier, but a heck of an effort to fight as hard as he did to continue to try and contest from behind. Jarrett Liebert, he's got a fast machine, just needs to get a good rhythm and a good start. Then you have Braden Caress, Dimitri Whitney, Lucas Cram, and Ryan Joyner, who will end off the field for heat race number 5. And now it's time to refocus, because you're going to have to try and win this race, one of these 2 last chance qualifiers, to move on now.
One driver of the grid of 17 is still going to have an opportunity to fight for the race win tonight and obviously try to get a lot of points. The objective of all 50 cars who started tonight is to make it into the top 30, to make it to the winner-take-all finale at Martinsville. Let's go trackside. This is LCQ A in your starting grid. Jake Waltman will be on a pole position for this one, and Howie Briss on the outside of the front row will start in 2nd. To get all of this qualified based on their finishing positions earlier, Roland Johns starts in 3rd position. Dave Walsh will roll from 4th, and it is Spencer Tart in P5.
Then you have Tyler Marble in 6th with Patrick Moose and Braden Caress in row number 4. Daniel Silvestri, who had a fast machine before getting into an incident, will be in 9th with Evan Black rounding out the top 10. And then you have Joseph John Brown along with Zach Novak, who has to really work his way from P12 in these next few laps, starting along near Lucas Cram, Camden West, and James Seawright.
And then to round things out, it'll be Ryan Papazian in 16th and Andreas Eke in 17th. But some of those notable big names, Zach Novak was battling for the race lead, but he was involved in an incident and dropped back in this one. Of course, we also mentioned some of those other drivers who had fast cars but did not get the results. You do get a little bit more time. It is a 12-lap LCQ, but only the LCQ winner will go to tonight's A main feature race. So it is a tall task if you're anybody outside of the top three. We have yet to see somebody pass your pole sitter for any of the race wins here tonight, and only 2 extra laps is going to be a tall order for the field. A pace car down and in. It is all Jake Waltman, and it is a fantastic start for the 42 car. He'll bring us to turn 1 for the first time.
And they're already getting very racy, almost 3 wide, in fact, to the apex of 1 and 2. But Roland Johns trying to get himself to that spot, bobbled and weaved as the battles for the lead developing in 3 and 4.
Battle for the lead is in 3 and 4, and it was a big mistake for Howie Bruce. There's going to be contact. It's going to be Roland Johns. He'll spin, and he is stuck on the nose as Spencer Tart. Those 2 cars who were battling inside of the top 5 get together. Again, there are no yellows, so we stay green, and it is a battle for the race lead up front. Here comes Dave Walsh. The 19 tried the high side. Didn't work that well on the exit at turn 4, but he launches from 4th to 2nd, and is in a great spot now to challenge down the back.
He's in a great spot. Waltman actually just got loose, and that Dave Walsh thought he could get underneath, but just didn't have the speed and enough of a bobble from Waltman. He's right where he needs to be. He just needs to hit the marks and make sure he doesn't make a mistake. Try and pressurize Waltman to force him to make a mistake.
It's all you're hoping for, and right now he's on the back bumper. Maybe he'll make some luck of his own. To the inside he goes, side by side, maybe for the race lead. The 42 gave him the space, but Walsh a little bit non-committal to the inside. He does have a nose, so he looks to make a much better effort this time down in 1 and 2. The one thing these race leaders need to keep in mind, Justin, as they fight side by side, it's going to slow them down and catch everybody else up to them. So Briss in 3rd. Look at the 26 of Silvestri in 4th. They're now on top of things as they get together.
And Briss, I don't think, was expecting that kind of momentum there. Runs into the back of Walsh, that ends up leading Silvestri to bump into the back. But all of them able to keep it clean. Good job on them. Now they have to try and regain the game positions back. Speaking of gaining positions, Zach Novak has already got himself to P6.
He's made his way to P6, and so is Joseph Braun, who's gone 11th to the number 6 position as well. So a handful of drivers have made up a lot of spots. Braun's going to get stuck in traffic as Novak clears some of the chaos amid a pack. So he is now P6, but the problem is he's 1.5 seconds back with no more than this time by 5 laps left to go in this race. So you got to get up on the wheel if you've got something. I still think Walsh is in a very good position. There's a spinner in the back. It's not going to affect your race leaders. It was in P6. Looks like that it was an issue there. Your race leader still going now. Issue with the 42. Jake Waltman all on his own. There was the mistake that we had talked about. The 42 bobbles, and it hands Walsh a big gap in P1.
A huge mistake, as looking first at what happened with the 26, that was Daniel Silvestri that we talked about, ended up making the contact with Briss. That hits him off the wall. The Novak comes in, makes contact with him. That spins him around in a 360 and moves Silvestri all the way to the back of the field and damages his machine. And then you have that mentioned there, the mistake there that we were waiting for with the battle for the lead with the 42 machine. Ends up taking too strong of an exit on turn 2, slides him all the way to the grass, and now Dave Walsh is in the lead with 2 laps to go, all because Waltman, with the pressurized mistake, ends up going too strong and falls to 3rd.
And it may have looked like at a first glance that he touched him, but you saw in the replay there was no contact at all. Walsh was just hounding him on that back push bar, and it was off the corner. He felt the pressure. Waltman just made a mistake, and It's certainly going to be a tough pill to swallow as he heads into next week and looks like will not have an opportunity to fight for the race win in the first week of the playoffs. It is the white flag in the air for Dave Walsh. Picked up a couple of spots from a wreck and then pressured your race leader into a critical error. He'll be the one lucky driver to go in from LCQ number 1. Dave Walsh wins and is headed to the main event.
A heck of a run from Walsh because he had shown speed in his heat. Able to pressurize the 42 to make the mistake from Waltman and able to come away on top to punch his ticket to the main. Heck of a run to be able to get himself to where he needed to be to win this qualifier.
And for all of those who don't advance, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow regardless, but certainly for some of the drivers who were also close, somebody like a Briss, a Moose, or a Waltman who came home 2, 3, and 4, it is going to sting just that little bit extra. They'll get another opportunity. Second race of the playoffs next Wednesday night from the Irwindale Speedway right here again on the iRacing Esports Network and NASCAR.com. Only one final spot is left into the main event. It is LCQ number 2 on the grid. Let's introduce you to your starting lineup. Riley Thompson gets the nod for P1 in this one. The number 15 will bring us to the green flag this evening. It'll be Dylan Hodge on the outside, starting in second. Brandon Ohm will start third position. Vincent Arthur rolls from fourth, and Jarrett Liebert tucked in there on the inside of row 3 in P5.
He'll start alongside Devin Serra with row number 4 being John Hess and Travis Oliver. Ethan Hagen and Dimitri Whitney will start inside the top 10 with Hunter O. Johnson having to work his way from 11th spot alongside Yusuf Ghali. Alex Karpowitz will start 13th with Nicholas Doucette in the 14th spot with Ryan Joyner after making himself ended up flipping down the front stretch starting off in the 15th spot.
And it really hurts those drivers way back here. 16th for Benjamin Morton and Reja Karuth, who is in 17th. The results from those heat races just really stings them. It'd be nearly impossible for somebody way back there to be able to transfer in. And again, as the lights go out on top of the iRacing pace card, we get set to go racing the next time by a majority of the drivers who started the race tonight don't make it to our main event of the 50 top finishers in the regular season on a weekly basis all the way through Stafford. As we try to figure out who those top 30 will be on any given week, only 17 cars do make it into that main event. We have 16 names. We just need one more. And Riley Thompson's got an awful good shot at making sure that it is going to be that number 15 machine. Pace car headed in. 12 more laps on the scoring to pile on. We go green at LCQ number 2.
And a good clean start, pardon me, to this one. But already contact turn 1 and 2. So someone sent sideways. Hunter O. Johnson.
Problems with Johnson, obviously not going to be any good for him. He spun, was able to recover. The field split high and low, and the race up front uninterrupted by that one. Thompson leads at the completion of lap 1. Hodge going to be tucked in there in second. Then it's Vincent Arthur in third, who picks up a spot. It is Brendan Ohm who goes backwards. The 25 sideways, and he'll spin it out. Ohm is in the middle of the racetrack, and there's the hit. He tried to get around everybody else, and now more cars. A big incident on the back.
Yeah, and all making that one mistake leads everyone scrambling where no one else really has room really after he gets loose on the bottom side. Then everyone else, some drivers get on through, but John Hess gets in the grass. That bottles things up as well. Doucette spun around into 360. Dolly spin around into 360. Just nowhere for anyone really to go on the racetrack. And that really helps big time the leader for this race.
And Devin Serra just got spun out from P3. That caused another big incident with the 29, the 46 also getting involved in this one. We had been able to avoid these types of incidents all night long. In any other case, one car spins, the caution flag comes out, and you back it down without being worried. But with no cautions in this eNASCAR Ignite Series, you have to go, and especially go for broke, with only the winner advancing. To be looked back in the battle for the race lead, Dylan Hodge just smacked the outside wall on the exit at corner number 2. So I was going to say we got a battle for the race lead on our hands. Not anymore, as he tries to recover now.
You were just saying you got to go when you got to go in terms of trying to get to that lead, and that's what Hodge was trying to do. ends up making that mistake and tapping the wall, and now he's actually starting to fall back after that mistake, where he's trying to get himself back into that rhythm once again, but it's going to be a tough task. He still needs to try and close about a 3.5 car length lead now for Riley Thompson as we're just past halfway.
Just past halfway, going to start to count down to the end of this one. It looks like Hodge's car may have taken a good bit of damage in that piece of contact you saw on the outside wall. He looked very good when he was on the back of the 15 machine, and now running back into P2 the last couple of times. He has been able to balance out the lap times. They're pretty even right now, but again, to make up that 0.4 of a second difference, you have to be better at least a handful of times now in the next 5 laps. Vincent Arthur not close enough third. You got Demetrius Whitney and Jarrett Liebert. They're 4th and 5th. Those drivers talking about nearly 2 seconds off of the race lead. So unless something happens up front between these two, it looks like it's going to be decided between the 15 and the 11.
But we've seen crazier things happen across the service. It's going to be a question of, can Thompson make sure he doesn't get too overconfident? We already have cars spinning on the front stretch. That could play a factor and is going to really help Hodge close on up because Thompson had to check up a bit. You never know what's going to happen in that case. It helps out Hodge close the gap just a little bit more, that extra 10.
Yeah, Oliver and Karpowitz got together. They did their very best to get out of the way of your race leaders, but it certainly, I think, spooked that 15 to Thompson, who may have rolled out of the throttle just a little bit. Hodge gets a tad bit closer, but he is going to need maybe one of those mistakes for the race leader that we had seen earlier on this evening. The 15, though, looks right now very smooth. The second to last time off the quarter, it is the white flag in LCQ number 2. The gap that Hodge still desperately trying to make up is the closest it's been in 5 laps, but that is still 0.3 of a second, and it looks like the 15 of Riley Thompson, the local go-kart driver who's been sim racing for 2 years, he'll get a ticket into the first ever main event of the playoffs. He wins LCQ number 2.
And a heck of a run to be able to hold on. Had a couple moments where Hodge was closing on in, but Hodge just couldn't overcome after tapping that wall on the outside of turn 2 around the middle point. A lot of good drivers in the top 5, especially Vincent Arthur, Demetrius Whitney, Jarrett Liebert in this one. But now the focus goes to the ones that have made their way through all the races tonight to make sure they're in the position to make it to the main.
And to give them a little bit of a break since they have been going heat to heat to heat and right for the LCQs to the LCQs. These drivers do get a small opportunity. 2-minute warm-up session going to be in the works. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside and get a word from our friends at NASCAR. And when we come back, we go 30-lap main event racing. You're watching the eNASCAR Ignite Series. The main event on the playoffs is when we come back. And welcome back live to the virtual new Smyrna Speedway as the eNASCAR Ignite Series continues on the road to the championship. Thanks for being with us for week 1 of the 2018 playoffs. We have seen 5 heat races, we have seen 2 LCQs, and now it is time to make the first move as the main event on the night comes up. 17 drivers of the 15 who started this evening still in this one, and they are hoping to be the first driver to make the first big step in the right direction of the $10,000 scholarship. One-on-one driver instructional with Max Pappas, one of his MPI steering wheels, and Simrig sets all of that up for grabs to the Ignite Series champion. And when we don't determine who that is tonight, we certainly get a good idea of who the players are going to be. Phil now rolls onto the racetrack. It is also going to be the longest race we have seen all night long by more than double. 30 laps up for grabs as you take a look at the starting grid. Garrett Lowe and Andy Trippiano going to be rolling off on the pole position for the 1, and Trippiano to the outside of the front row in second. Mikey Dale, Jacob Hall 2-3 with Ryan Matthews in the number 5 spot. Nicholas Robish in the number 6 position. You got Brian LaPrade in 7th. Austin Edwards, Jake Matheson, Anthony Burrows through the top 10. The complete running order going to go across your screen. Look top to bottom at all 17 names. The big thing to keep in mind is obviously these drivers have not gone 30 laps thus far this evening, so what the tires are going to be like is going to be a big question, and the cautions are still off, so pacing yourself may be a lot more important than getting just a ton of speed right out of the gate. We are going to find out. It's the first main event of this 5-race playoff. Pace cars down and in. Let's go racing. The 1 of Garrett Lowe takes the green flag, and they race to 1 and 2. That 12 machine, that's Mikey Dale. He's on the inside. The 10 car of Hall gets pushed up, and 1-2 going to be able to pull away, no worries. It's Lowe and Trippiano, but third on back, it's Chaos. Neal does end up getting the 3rd spot. Ryan Matthews going to be able to slot in. He's now in 4th, at least at the line. The 10 of Jacob Hall not want to give this one up. That outside could be a better solution. Long term, the 12 makes a mistake. Mikey Neal's gonna spin. He hits the wall. He will go up and over. Your 3rd placed runner can't handle it. He's in a big accident. You'll take a second look on the Race Spot TV replay all on his own. Had just gotten through. We have seen many drivers catch that outside wall in turn 2 tonight, and it is going to bite your 3rd placed runner as he will fall all the way down the scoring pylon. Not the start that he wanted to this playoff campaign with the Ignite Series. So Jacob Hall now assumes the number 3 position. Ryan Matthews is 4th, and you got Nicholas Lobish in the number 5 spot. There's a lot of heavy traffic from that point on for side-by-side battle. We see on the racetrack is the 5 of Jake Matheson up top and the 22 of Dylan Alt down on the bottom of the racetrack. They're side by side, and that's another mistake. It's the 5 who pounds the outside wall. Seems anywhere you stick the camera, it's somebody making a mistake, and that time it was Matheson, who no doubt had to take on some amount of damage in that one, but unlike the issue we saw with Neal, the 5 hangs on, and he is not really going to lose much. Oh, and there's more contact behind him now. Burrows into it. This is the biggest field that these drivers have been racing in all night long. It matches the size of those LCQs, but again, 15 of these 17 cars qualified in to just those 10-car heat races, and in those heats, we made a point of noting that these are small cars, a relatively wide racetrack as well. There was a good amount of real estate up for grabs. You can certainly see that little bit of claustrophobia playing in as a lot of drivers starting to rough each other up. Only 7 laps in of the 30 on the night. There's the 14 and the 28. They're doing a battle. That is about mid-pack, but you have to consider if you're back there, you're over 3 seconds off of the race lead. Probably not in a position at the moment to challenge for the race lead unless something really goes down. So this looks like it's certainly going to come down to Lowe and Trippiano. There's another car in the back straightaway. It's Burrows who is on his lid. He went up and over after the 19 machine made a mistake, cut him up off of the corner. That was Dave Walsh, and again, big issues in turn number 2. That seems to be Calamity Quarter. I know earlier on in this race, Justin had noted that after watching the practice session, he felt like that might be a place to keep an eye on, and certainly thus far in this feature race, not a lot of good has come at a quarter number 2. If we've really been talking about you at all, and that replay showed you exactly what happened. So 2 drivers out of this race. Burrows calls it quits. Mikey Neal still on track, but he's 2 laps down. They are the only drivers off of the race leading lap. And something to note as we kind of try to refocus on up front, was we kind of also keep an eye on everybody else throughout the field, is Andy Truppiano in the number 2 spot. He is closing on Garrett Lowe in the battle for the race lead. It had been even at about 0.4 of a second. We'll take a look this time by Lowe's lap time, a 20.739. It was a 0.736 for Truppiano, so just a sliver better on that lap. But the 8 machine certainly has showed some promise in being able to kind of keep this an honest race, and Garrett Lowe, I'm sure, would like to see that interval getting a little bit bigger as opposed to it continuing to close down. Lowe does make some of it back up the last time. The one constant, though, is, Jacob Hall's in 3rd. He's having a great fight right now with Ryan Matthews, but they are all losing time. So significantly, P1 and P2 are the fastest cars on the racetrack, but they do appear to be pretty even. Now, Garrett Lowe obviously had the success earlier on in the evening that allowed him to get that straight ticket into this main event, and obviously the difference maker could very well be pole position. All but one of the races that we have seen this evening have been won by the car who started in the number 1 position. Truppiano wants to continue to change that statistic. He's now within 0.2 of a second. So the 8 machine has the advantage here on the 1, where he can look in front of him, see Garrett Lowe obviously, and figure out what the 1 car is doing to get that speed. Lowe's at a disadvantage. It's a lot harder for him to take a defensive line or to look back and see what the 8's doing while he's trying to go through the corner and kind of keep a half eye on that rear view mirror. And that's where you see mistakes come from. We've seen several drivers pressured into making some blunders this evening, and that comes from dividing their attention between the racetrack in front of them and the car challenging from behind. So if you're Truppiano in this situation, in a very good position to be able to watch what the 1's doing. If the 1 gets a good lap, he knows what Garrett Lowe did to get a good lap around the racetrack, but he can also work around, try to find speed in parts of the racetrack that Lowe has been unable to thus far. We are keeping an eye on this battle for 3rd now, with Ryan Matthews in the number 3 position, hoping to get up into that spot. I should say Ryan Matthews into 3, looking to get in 3rd. He runs in 4th right now, and he is trying to catch up to Jacob Hall. So good battles going on towards the front and mid-pack in this race. Looks like the 10, though, of Hall kind of accepting the fact that he doesn't have a race car to go up and challenge up front. But again, with the objective being to just get into the top 30, 3rd in week 1 of the playoffs is more than what Jacob Hall maybe could have asked for, at least to just get the ball rolling and then kind of set yourself in a position to build off. But still doesn't have 3rd locked up. We just crossed the halfway point. 19 laps this time by of the 30 in this main event going to be complete. Matthews all over the back bumper now in that fight. Looks like 3rd the best place to be on track, and there's the move. A little bit of a bump and run in the center of the corner. He loosened him up. He'll go to the inside, and it is side by side for 3rd on track. Matthews wants it. The 10 is not going to give this one up, but it is a lot more of a handful than he would have expected. It's now a 4-car battle. You've got Lobish right there. There's going to be contact. Matthews gets sideways. He will hang on after he pushed up and got into the 10, and it is no holds bar in the battle for 3rd, as a lot of contact has really now opened this thing up. How about 2 sets of 2x2 in the fight for 4th position on back, with Jake Matheson slicing and dicing his way into P4, 3 cars behind him battling for 5th. And you would think, at least with one of the longer races on the night, that the later we get into this thing, the little bit more separation we would see. Has not been the case in this main event as they continue to hound each other mid-pack. Nothing has changed through all of this up at the front of the field. Andy Truppiano is still trying to get himself into that number 1 position, a driver who has real-world experience, a past quarter midget champion who has been racing on the iRacing service for 2 years now, is trying to get Garrett Lowe, who is one of the more familiar names here on sim racing. He also races Legends cars on the real-world side of things, that has been racing out of North Carolina in sim racing for 3 years. So you do have, interestingly enough, I would say it's almost a 2/3 split of these drivers who have either limited to no real-life experience. A lot of drivers have some experience, working on teams at their local short track and whatnot. But a lot of drivers in this, their experience is limited to the sim only. I do find it interesting that drivers running 1 and 2 right now of the drivers who have a significant amount of experience outside of iRacing. Side by side right now for 5th and 6th position, Nicholas Lobish to the inside of Dylan Alt. Those are 2 names who we have been talking about a good amount this evening. The 27 is trying to get around him, and again, all of these drivers vying for critical points that will qualify them into that winner-take-all race at Martinsville come the middle of September. But if you're still waiting around to make a move, you've been patiently stalking on somebody, now is the time to go. This time by only 3 laps left to go. For the virtual new Smyrna Speedway, Garrett Lowe is oh so close to becoming the first feature race winner of this eNASCAR Ignite Series for the playoffs. We mentioned earlier this evening that he came into tonight with the most points out of anybody in the regular season. 15 wins in 16 starts in the regular season, and it looks to continue that dominance. 2 laps to go. Trappiano is there, and in all honesty, the 8 has been there all night. These cars are so evenly matched that besides a couple of fluctuations by a few thousands here and there, they have been on top of each other. But Garrett Lowe takes the white flag. 1 lap left to go for the new Smyrna Speedway. The 8 drove it in hard that time. He's going to have to really make a big move. No lap traffic in front. That's going to be a factor. I don't think they're going to catch Burrows. And Garrett Lowe, a statement in week 1 of the playoffs. He'll be your feature race winner from new Smyrna Speedway in the eNASCAR Ignite Series. He led the points in the regular season, and he will head into round 2 of the postseason as your championship leader once more. An impressive drive for the driver of that number 1 machine, Andy Trappiano. You have to give a tip of the cap. He and Lowe, by far, the class of the field, as Lowe comes around and wants to get to some celebrating. Trappiano's deficit at the very end, just those 3 1/1000ths of a second. And then it is a significant gap back to the likes of Jacob Hall, who comes home in 3rd position, Jake Matheson, who comes home in 4th, and Dylan Alt, who comes home in the number 5 position. Kenny Brady comes home 6th spot, and this one is Austin Edwards, who finishes in 7th. Ryan Matthews comes home 8th spot, Jay Mitchell Adams 9th, and Aaron Mulrooney Jr. rounds out your top 10. B. Parker ends up with a P11 result, 10 seconds off the race leader. Dave Walsh comes home in 12th spot. It is Brian LaPrade in 13th. Riley Thompson in 14th is the final driver on the lap. Nicholas Lobish 1 lap down 15th. Mikey Neal 2 laps down 16th. And Anthony Burrows 3 laps down in 17th position. What we'll do is take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll wrap things up and let you know what's up next as the series heads to the Irwindale Speedway. But Garrett Lowe has kicked off the playoffs with a win in the eNASCAR Ignite Series. We've got more on that when we come back to the iRacing Esports Network.
All week we work. We clock in, roll up our sleeves, and get the job done. And when Friday comes,
inside, 3 wide.
We all get to raise
When they take the green, there will be 10 to go.
a little hell.
Oh! Oh, there it goes!
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back.
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney got his first win.
Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's going to win at Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch.
Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
So, you want to race in NASCAR. The road starts here. Introducing the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing. This is the gateway for all aspiring 13 to 16-year-olds. Starting June 20th, ignite your dreams of one day racing in the top tiers of NASCAR. Go to www.iracing.com/ignite for full details.
Welcome back to the virtual new Smyrna Speedway, where RaceSpot TV's coverage of the eNASCAR Ignite Series continues. One race down on this 5-race playoff, and certainly got a good look at some of the drivers we're going to be keeping an eye on it as this series of 13 to 16-year-olds looking to get their foot in the door, should say, of the sport of NASCAR and sim racing as we look forward to what is to come. Tonight, a good preview. What we're going to do is we'll go trackside in just a minute, chat with Garrett Lowe, who is your race winner in this one. But first, happy that you're sticking with us on NASCAR.com, the iRacing Esports Network. Garrett Lowe started up front, finished up front, and he is down at trackside with us now. Garrett, congratulations on the win. We mentioned it off at the top there that we were certain that you had some pretty high expectations coming into this one. Finished at the top of the regular season standings as the P1 driver coming into this, 15 trips to victory lane and 16 opportunities, and you got kicked off the right way tonight. Old checkered flags for you in that one car.
Yeah, we did. Kind of knocked off a really good Q lap. Wasn't really expecting to hit such a good lap, but we were able to start first in the heat 1, and that set up for a good night. We're just able to finish first in heat 1 and start on the pole, and kind of able to get away from the field there. And you know, Andy stayed on my bumper the whole race. He drove a great race as well. So great race to him.
Obviously, starting up front gives you a big advantage. You mentioned knocking off that Q lap, puts you up in front of it. I believe out of the 5 heat races we saw, the 2 LCQs at the main event, all but one of those was won by the driver who did start from pole position, but it certainly looked like Andy Trappiano was giving you everything you had there. You guys looked almost dead even. That 0.3 of a second disadvantage on his part pretty much went from the top to the bottom of this race. Did you think that 8 machine had maybe a little bit extra up that sleeve for you? Did you feel pretty confident having that track position, that if he was able to get right on that bumper, you'd be able to hold him off?
Well, I think we kind of had a little bit different driving lines, different styles we were using to get around the place. So it was, I knew he had something different than I was trying, and I could see him. He was trying things, and my spotter, Michael Van Estall, was definitely keeping me informed on where he was gaining time, and we were able to stay on top of it and make sure we were the fastest car.
What is, how big of a key is this for you guys to be able to come into this one and get the very first win of the season? We talked a little bit, obviously, throughout this race, and with the first time we've had this Ignite Series live and on the air, that for a lot of drivers, maybe one of the bigger moments of their sim racing career, but you're very used to this kind of a thing. You look calm and cool under the pressure to get the playoffs started on the right foot. How big is that?
It's pretty big, definitely helps, to have a good point lead going in after the first round, to be able to continue that throughout the rest of the playoffs and hopefully into the finale.
You look forward, obviously, try to lock this thing up, and you get a handful of points here. That certainly helps you. Irwindale Speedway, Texas, which is a road variant that you guys will be taking on in these Legends cars, and then Stafford, the races before we get to that final shootout at the Martinsville Speedway. What are you going to look for in that one car in these next few weeks?
Just looking to be consistent. We gotta starting off with a win. Of course, you want to continue to win, but that's not always gonna happen. So I think if we can stay consistent and run at the front every week, that's set ourselves up for a good spot in the finale. I think we'll be just fine.
Couple more of these kind of nights. I think you guys will be set nice and pretty, Garrett. We appreciate your time. We'll let you jet out of here. Before we do, sponsors and all that good stuff. Anybody you want to say hi to?
Just thanks to Spotter Michael Vendesdal, everybody at FSR, Fusion Racing as well for the rallycross stuff, and of course you guys in iRacing for help putting this on. Really appreciate NASCAR, having a series like this where younger kids can kind of get involved with sim racing and trying to get their career started in NASCAR.
Good start for you for the playoffs. Garrett, congratulations on the win. And if you guys keep it up, I'm certain we'll chat with you soon. Best of luck next week. We'll see you there.
Yep, thank you guys.
That is your race winner tonight for the new Smyrna Speedway. I do believe we also have on the radio the driver of the number 10 machine of Jacob Hall, who comes home in third. Jacob, you got a copy?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I believe so are you after knocking out that podium. Third out of 50 drivers on week one. It's not all that bad. Talk us through your evening here, locking up a lot of good points in the first week of the playoffs.
Well, my goal when I first came in was just to make the race because I knew it was going to be a really stacked field of drivers. But I didn't think I would finish third. I just tried to practice as much as I could and ended up third. Had a little bit of contact there with the 3 car, but I think that was just a racing incident. But had a pretty good week. I'm excited for next week.
One thing we mentioned as this race started to close down is, we were mentioning the split of drivers who have the experience outside of the sim versus those who don't. And I think the overwhelming number of drivers in this series, their experience is pretty limited just to the iRacing service. You have pit crewed with your dad on his modified, but other than that, all of your seat time primarily coming in here in the iRacing service. And these Legends cars are the first stepping stone at your local short track, but a lot of the time on the iRacing service, they don't get that much attention. What's it been like for you trying to hone in your skills on this car specifically?
Well, the Legends, it's been a really tough car for me to drive on iRacing. I'm a lot better in the Cup car and everything, but the Legends it's never really been my car, so whenever I was at a pretty big gap between the guy in fourth, I was trying to be as smooth as possible because when I was practicing, I would lose it off the corner and get really loose. So I try to be really smooth on the gas and not make any mistakes. It's a really tough car to drive.
Obviously, to be able to find the success here, I'm sure makes you guys feel a lot better and maybe gives you a realistic look at maybe what you can expect. Obviously, to be able to start ahead means that you're not climbing from behind, and it'll give you a little bit more breathing room, but you can't go into the next 3 weeks of this opening round and slack off by any stretch of the imagination. So what is it going to take to not only get this P3 finish here tonight, but to be able to consistently bring that kind of a result to the table?
I'm just going to have to continue to practice as much as I can. Have a lot of stuff to do because unlike most other drivers, my school started a few weeks ago. Got to practice as much as I can and just try to avoid the wrecks and try not to make mistakes, really.
I am curious before we let you take off from here with the heat races, the LCQs. Obviously, there's no way we're tossing all 50 of you guys on the same track, and in the regular season, we had a total of 480 drivers compete in this series. Do you guys find it difficult at all to kind of get used to some of the other faces, guys that you haven't raced with on the sim before? Because oftentimes the field is so segregated that you don't see those same names as often. Have you kind of seen that as a learning experience? How you guys trying to figure that out?
Most of the people that have made it into the top 50, I've seen them before, just haven't really been in a race with them, just seen them in a practice. All of them race pretty good. It's different learning. It is a learning experience, learning how they drive and stuff, knowing how they race you. But for the most part, I've known most of them, and all of them race pretty good. So excited for the next few weeks.
We look forward to it. We'll get right back at it next Wednesday night. Jacob, I know we've borrowed some time from you post-race. We appreciate that. Before we let you go, anybody you want to say hi to?
I want to say hi to Zach A. Hudson, Corey Hart, and Dave Walsh, he finished 5th. He started in the back. And my mom and dad. So, yep.
E3 finisher tonight from New Smyrna. Jacob, thanks for giving us the time. Again, congratulations on the solid finish for week 1, and we'll catch you next week right back at it at Irwindale.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thank you.
Again, that's your third place finisher tonight for the New Smyrna Speedway. Big thanks, Garrett Lowe, your race winner, and Jacob Hall for giving us just a little bit of their time post-race in this one. We have now successfully gotten through our first week of this eNASCAR Ignite series, and again, maybe if you stepped into this one just a little bit late, not quite sure how all of this has worked out, is 480 drivers on the iRacing service, age 13 through 16, competed in these Legends cars on a grueling schedule that took them to places like Myrtle Beach and South Boston Speedway, some of the most iconic short tracks in the country. Only the top 50, though, qualified for the playoffs, and this is just round 1 of 5. We will go 3 more weeks as we head onto the calendar into next week at Irwindale. A week off, then we'll go to a road course at Texas Motor Speedway on September the 12th, and then Stafford Speedway on September the 19th. Those 4 races total will give us a 30-car field, and then it gets really fun, because the final shootout at Martinsville will be the determining factor in who gets a shot at this list of prizes. Not only is it a $10,000 scholarship, which will be put towards starting or furthering whoever the champions is racing aspirations. You're also going to get a one-on-one driver instructional with Max Pappas. That'll also include one of his MPI steering wheels for the service, a sim seat simulation, cockpitted introduction to the NASCAR racing development personnel. It is quite the experience that is up for grabs here in this eNASCAR Ignite series. That being said, we are far from done, but week 1 of the playoffs has fallen into our rear view mirror. Want to, of course, thank all of the people who make all of this possible on Wednesday nights, everybody at NASCAR, iRacing, and RaceSpot, for bringing these broadcasts to you, and do want to say a thanks as well on behalf of our entire broadcast team. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince, and our director, Randy Cheneth, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Ryan Lowe. He's your week 1 winner in the NASCAR Ignite series. The series will return next Wednesday. So Garrett Lowe, your race winner in this one, as we mentioned, chatted with him. He is at the very top of it all. You've also seen him here on the iRacing Esports Network in some of our other World Championship series. As we were saying, though, the series is going to be back next Wednesday, August the 29th. That race is from the Irwindale Speedway. It'll be the second race of the playoffs. That race and every single race as we search for our first ever eNASCAR Ignite Series champion can be found right here on RaceSpot TV, NASCAR.com, at the iRacing Esports Network. Until then, good night from New Smyrna. We'll catch you next week from the Irwindale Speedway.